There's Maisie. Hello. Hi. Here we are again. Thanks, Callum. This is part 2. Maisie, come up. Up. Can you see Maisie? She's had a groom, and she's like a different dog altogether. I think she looks a little bit more intelligent, but and she's a little bit calmer. Maybe it's been a right pain having all that extra hair. So Calum's kindly agreed to sit for me again, and I'm going to paint at least the ear. And what I feel like doing is bringing a bit more warmth into the whole thing. And I'm going to go back there now and sort out so that I can see the top of your head in the painting. We've been fiddling with the setup quite a bit so that we can get it working. This is the iPad stuck to the door. That's really good. Okay. I'm pleased with this thing. I was painting, Clare Balding for that program, and they sent me this flexible arm thing that I'll put a link to the live stream below the video of me painting Clare Balding, so you know what I'm talking about. It was for Sky Arts, but they sent me an arm a thing that you can connect to. What would you call that? It's like a thing where you can stick the iPad on the end of it, and the other end you can stick it onto a door or the easel, and it's got an arm that's flexible. So that's what you're looking at me from now, is from that flexible arm stuck to the door. So provided Maisie doesn't go jumping on the door, we're steady enough for the duration, hopefully. Okay, so, and I'm behind the iPad. So I think you'll see roughly what I'm seeing, not exactly, but almost the same as the viewpoint I have. But I was saying to Callum there, we've got photographs taken of him, and somebody already in America, Jane, is painting from the photograph. So if you wanted to get this particular view that I'm working from, you can get in touch and I'll send you an email of the picture of Calum. He's kindly agreed to that. If he has second thoughts about that, I'll let you know and we'll send a different photograph of someone else. But you can always get someone to sit for you, which is actually much more appealing than working from a 2D image anyway. Okay, yeah, so I found the position. It's sometimes tricky to get exactly the same viewpoint a second time, and I actually see that as not such a bad thing, because it causes you to make some changes straight away, and it's sometimes good to take ownership over the work again, like to really make your claim over it again by doing something fairly clear, and making a big change, making a significant change, I should say, really. So one of the changes I'm making is to bring the back of the head back a little bit more. I think when I was looking at the width of Calum's face in the painting, it did read as being a little bit too narrow, I thought. So I'm using the 1.5 inch brush with a mix of ultramarine blue and Van Dyke brown to get this dark that anchors down the back of the head. I'm half closing my eyes now, so that, and actually, the hair is a good place for you to ease yourself back into the painting. It's been actually quite a while since I worked on the first one, on the first stage, so I'm needing to kind of reorient myself back into seeing this head at this particular angle, in this particular light, Okay. And it's quite tricky for any model to sit without a back on the chair, so it's I would say it's a bit of a challenge, Calum. Seem to be managing okay, but you can say if you want to have a little break at any point, and I think I'll invest in a chair with a back on it for the next time. Now what am I doing? I wanted to warm that up, so I put some cadmium red and Jackson's orange into that colour for the hair there. Just feel like I want to give some kind of more of a robust feel to the colours of the skin. Give more substance or something like that. And using the Jackson's orange, which is in the little tablet there, into the blue and brown mix, actually. It's giving me a colour that's going to work for the shadows here in front of the ear, suppose the ear is the area that I'm kind of working up to, but I first want to be sure of the landscape around it. Landscape of the face around it, like fixing the shadows in the temple. And a bit of a litter in there would be quite nice. I sometimes find that when the skin goes from dark to light, that it can change to being a little bit warmer at the transition. So I put a touch of alizarin crimson in there, just where the cheekbone begins to turn underneath. And there's a nice drip going down the back of the head there now, so I think I'll catch that. Don't really want a dark line there. Okay. And all of these marks are kind of, ways for me to find. It's a bit like sculpting the landscape actually of the face, and all of these different directions and different size marks. So this is now the 1-inch brush. All of these different directions and sizes of brush soap mean that I can manipulate the surface of the skin to create a feeling of 3 dimensions, and all of the different kind of planes of the face will be hopefully revealed. And changing colour helps as well here now, so like I didn't want that shadow to be the same as the line at the back of the neck, so I'm bringing some cadmium orange this time into the mix there. And there's a window back here as well behind Callum, so there is a little bit of some light falling on that side as well. I'm just straightening up the neck. And while I wanted to stem the flow of that dark drip there are other runs that kind of surprise me in a good way, and that keep me kind of lively about it, and that's what that one is doing there. So when you're painting your portraits as well, you can discern which marks, which runs and drips that are accidental you want to hold on to, and which runs and drips you feel are maybe taking from the image. And you won't always know clearly, so don't labour or linger over the decision too much. If in doubt, I would say if it's a light drip like that, you could let it alone. If it's something dark, you might as well lift it off. Are you killing flies there, or swatting them away? This is fly season in Scotland. Okay. And how's the stance? How's your pose? Is it okay? Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. Yeah, I've just to let you know there, I've cleared my runway. So standing back, that noise there was me crashing into a chair. So one of the things that I would recommend for you is that you create a space around yourself that's as clear as possible. You don't want anything, actually equally behind Callum, I don't want anything disturbing my view too much or anything distracting me. So I want clarity there. I think that's what apparently Matisse used to do, that he used to put all the kind of mess of the house behind him when he was painting, so that he had a nice clear view in front. But the other thing that I find really helpful is to have a clear runway behind me, so that I'm not crashing into anything, and I can focus on the main job in hand, which is actually seeing and painting down what I'm seeing. And when the attention can be given fully to that, it's actually very pleasing. Like there's a lovely kind of curiosity that sets in then, and you want to kind of figure out, so what's all the different colours, and how can I represent that little dip there, and all of this kind of conversation starts up in my head when there's nothing else calling on my attention. I'm really grateful to Maisie for not being one of those things calling on my attention today. It's nice that she's taken herself off somewhere, maybe mildly traumatized from her shave. But from now on we're going to do it regularly, so she's going back in 4 weeks' time to I think the groomer was keen to make her a little bit more uniform all over, and she said she can't do that when her hair is so short. Now I want to make a kind of a purple colour, because I'm seeing something a bit purplish underneath Callum's eye here. Callum did night shift a couple of nights ago, is it? Is that right? Not that is anything, it's not like you've got bags under your eyes. Your mum was saying that, wasn't she? But I don't think you actually have any sign of being tired. And like last night you were up until 2 a.m. or something making those caramel things. What are they? Millionaire shortbread. Yeah. So, myself and Erin are good bakers. Looking forward to a bit of that. Is there some left? Yeah. Okay, so that purplish colour was made with the cerulean blue and the alizarin crimson. And I think that I might use the purplish colour again there. It's more alizarin there, or it's reddish, more reddish there than it is purple though. So just, yeah, so sometimes it's quite a nice move to fill the area with water that you want to occupy with pigment, and then pull up the colour and lift, allowing it to paint itself a second time like that, you know, on the way back down. There are different ways of creating interest in the surface of your painting, and really you want to keep yourself inspired. I don't know if I pressed start, did I, Callum? No, I didn't. Jeekers. No. Would you say 10 minutes have elapsed? Oh, sure, I can see on here. Yeah, exactly. Look, 11 minutes. So I'd say another 20. It's gas. Like, this was the purpose of this. No, I'm shaking it. The purpose of this was to make some moves in the ear, and there's nothing there yet. But it's still. I think it's actually worthwhile. This whole thing. Sometimes, you know, the thing is, I don't really know what I'm going to be working on until I actually see and do this step, and then the next step is revealed. So it's not like as though it's not like as though there's a planned pattern and a planned path. In fact, that's what's lovely about each time you show up. It's different every single time. Showing up to the easel, a blank page, new face, or just a new day, same face. It's never predictable, really, and by its nature, I think it's good that it's not predictable. Like, I find that it's something that keeps me inspired, is to, you know, the idea that it's something unknown is going to be revealed here. Okay, now what I need to do is to lift off some of this hair to create a nice clean edge for that ear. So I'm glad that I'm able to show you this thing here now, because I've got these craft brushes, Crafter's Choice from Royal and Langnickel, and this is the 1/4 inch brush, and it allows me to kind of pick out a bit like rubber and charcoal when it's damp, clean damp water on it. So it's not dripping wet now, but I'm able to create a nice clean edge for the light on the ear there. And every 3rd or 4th move of lifting off, I'm washing the brush again, so that I'm not simply pushing the pigment back into the paper, but that I'm still lifting it back to fairly clean paper. Sometimes it's almost a deliberate thing to put colour in where I know I'll need to extract it later, because it's quite a pleasing thing to retrieve the light. Or at least I would say that I'm not so cautious in the application of darks early on, when I know that lifting off is an option and retrieving light this way is an option. So, for example, carving out the light that's here on the top of the ear. Oh, is my face in the way, I wonder? Maybe my nose is sticking out there the whole time in front of you. Anyway, I think it's okay. So lifting out this bit of flesh here where the light is falling as the ear connects to the front of the face that's a pleasing exercise for me now to do that, because it really reveals the form of that area. Maybe more than if I was to kind of paint the dark in around it. However, that's the colour of hair now, so I need to make it more Rita's skin colour. And also there's a softer edge to this part of the ear in here as well. I did a step-by-step for the Artist and Illustrator magazine on painting the ear from different angles. And I think it's available free on, at least on Facebook, they've got these step-by-steps. So if you look it up, there was 3 or 4 pages of ideas and advice about painting ears from different angles. My daughter modelled for it. My daughter Hope, so she's 23 now. She was the one who modelled for those ones. And it was in time before the iPad as well, and Jim McIntosh took the pictures for that. So they were very professionally done. And again, if you want to email me, I can send you a link to that article in case you're not able to find it yourselves. It's no problem. Just get in touch. I actually really enjoy corresponding with folk about stuff like that. No, some dark there. I'm wanting to create some kind of cohesion in the skin and the face, so I'm bringing the same colour around to different places. And letting the skin on the ear dry is helpful, so there's a kind of a dancing to and fro from working a little bit in the ear and then leaving it alone to dry, and just bringing the rest of the face up to meet the kind of new things that are happening in the ear. And there's an earring, for goodness sake, I forgot about that. Did you say you had to get it done a second time? Like my first meeting with Calum. Just when I went in to find him being pinned down. Should I say this? Well, it's probably incriminating my daughter more than anyone else. Aaron had decided to pierce his ear. Now, you had given your consent, but I think you didn't want to be moving, so you had people kind of holding you so that you wouldn't move too much. I've said it now. Oh God. Anyway, but I think you had to redo it, didn't you? Like the hole didn't stay open. So I don't think that's Erin's vocation. I think she could aim for a different career than ear piercing. So that was how I met Callum first. We've kind of recovered well, Callum, haven't we, after that? I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe you were doing drugs or something in that bedroom and all the noise. No, this isn't a great conversation, is it, to have when I'm trying to keep you sitting still. But I'll tell you what, you can keep laughing because I'm only working on your eyebrows. So don't worry. And there's no piercings there. Have you any intention of getting piercings anywhere? No. There was actually a model I painted years ago, and he was a nude model. And he had piercings everywhere, like. It was at Damien Callan's studio in Dalry, but it was more of a distraction than anything else, to be honest. Like, so I just ended up doing a portrait of his head and shoulders. He had an amazing beard. No, so bringing a bit of warmth in. It's kind of helpful to work in areas like, you know, to dance around the features. Keep yourself excited about the colours in the face as well. And anytime you see anything that's a bit out of the ordinary, like there's a nice kind of blue there. Again, I think I put some in last week in the white of the eye. There's a bit of blue. And anytime you see a colour that's a little bit surprising, you know, pin it down, paint it in there, and don't be afraid to kind of make your work unique and individual to you. Because we all see, I think I suspect we all must see colour slightly differently, you know. And so let the world see how you see in your paintings. Just half closing my eyes here to know whether the light on the nose is brighter than the light on the skin here, and it is. So it helps me then to make this a little bit darker, so that we know that the bridge of the nose is overlapping the socket on that side. I'm not sure about that though. I kind of want there to be light on the eyelid separating the iris from the skin of the socket. So I'm just going to really work to lift off that for now and risk it looking a little bit odd for a while. So there's 12 more minutes, Callum. If you want to stretch, just know that might be a good time for you. If you want to just have a little, oh my God, you're the same as Erin. Make these noises with your neck. Surely be to God that can't be good for you. No, Callum's mum is a doctor. Has she ever said to you, stop doing that to your poor body?
I don't know if she knows anything about everything. Like,
Alright, well
whether it works or whether it's bad or not.
Oh, okay, but she knows that you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I suppose if it doesn't hurt you, then it might be okay. But Erin's been doing it for years, and Hope before her. So it's it just feels that kind of like torture. Okay, I'm just going to bring some colour into the iris on that side now. Yeah, it's gas. Like as soon as I put some colour or some dark tone or different colour in somewhere, then it's somewhere else is highlighted. Like when I put the brown into the eye there, although I want to darken the eyelash now as well before talking about any more. When I put the brown into the eye there, straight away my eye went down to here underneath the nose, and something to describe the underside of the nose, which actually now is darker than the triangle of skin beyond it. Whereas last time it might have been a bit lighter. Of course, I think last time it was maybe in the afternoon. Calum was at 1:30 or something. Maybe the light was a little bit different. But it still works just fine. It's just good to notice little things as well that I might have missed before. So what I'm noticing is that there's shadows on the underside of the spherical end of the nose that help to describe the shape of that. And that contrast with the skin beyond there, again allowing me to see it as overlapping. So the nose reading as though it's overlapping. I've got another palette down there with wildcard colours on it, and they're kind of coming in handy. Like that colour is magenta or something, and I might use that, although it's not really the colour of the nose. I think I want to bring some warmth in there, and I feel like using colours that are just a little bit new and fresh for me. I think anything that keeps us interested. There's a part of us that really crave novelty, I think it's that same part that's creative. And so when that part becomes, gosh, you don't want to have a magenta nose, though, do you? Well, that's not too bad there. It looks a bit Rudolphy here. What I was going to say is that it's good to follow the impulse to do something new and exciting, and different, as long as it doesn't totally take you off piste. Let's see now. I think if I put some orange into that, it'll soften into skin colour again. And very often, actually, the extremities, like the nose, the ears, and the features, will have a bit more warmth to them than other parts. Like I said, the warming up happens between dark and light, and also on the tip of the nose, for example, and on the ear. Speaking of which, I better get back to that. We've got 8 minutes. Okay, and here's the postman now. I think he's coming to our door with a big box. For fuck's sake. Or maybe it's their neighbours. We'd soon find out. It's actually probably the Hello Fresh stuff. Now, this is our last week. Gosh, I hope I'm not sticking my face in front of this every time I'm going to paint him. This is our last week getting the Hello Fresh delivery. Now, I'm going to lift off. I'd say it's difficult for you, Calum, to know whether I'm talking to you or talking to the camera. You can just assume I'm talking to the camera all the time, okay? And you're managing brilliantly just to sit still again. Okay. Yeah, we kept forgetting to choose our meals for the Hello Fresh thing. It's like you get a delivery of food and then you make your own dinners. I need to focus on what I'm doing here and stop talking because I have 8 minutes left and there's no ear. So the pupil over there now needs to be explained. Yeah, my face is in front of it. Just put you there like that. Okay. So it seems to me like the pupil is almost hanging down from the upper eyelash line. And it's just helpful to have some dark established there. It means that you don't need an awful lot of detail elsewhere. You've got the dark of the upper eyelash line and the dark of the pupil. And I'll put a similar dark here, which is a bit more blue than brown, so that they read as cohesive as a pair of eyes. A little bit dark on the eyebrow, maybe a touch here just as it turns. And then I want to bring that same dark again down. Now the nose was maybe still a little bit wet. I'm just hoping that it'll not bleed too much there. Because I wanted to establish again the relationship between the nose and the eyes by putting in the dark of the nostril. And there's a little bit of hair here too that's kind of nice coming across. You need to move to a bigger brush. As soon as you're doing 2 or 3 moves, when one would do, you know that you need to move to a bigger brush. Anytime you can do 1 move rather than 3, I I would encourage that, you know, to do things succinctly where you can. A little bit more shadow there. And to stand back much more often than I am is good advice as well. Okay, so when I stand back, and I know there's still more to do in the ear, well, I was going to say, but I'm going to go into the eyes again, but I'm actually going to paint something in the ear that can be drying as I'm doing the eyes and stuff. So I want to find the dark cavity there, the shape of that. And let's see, I think it could do with maybe some alizarin mixed with the viridian green would give me a colour for that dark that'll be different from the skin below it here. It just gives it a kind of a warmth. Yeah. Alright, so it's looking all a bit like quite dark there now, but I'm confident enough that once that's dry-ish, I'll be able to reform it, and it'll be quite a nice thing to come back in with a clean damp brush. Just going to put some sap green. That's the sap green there, it's the lighter of the two greens. I'm going to put that into the area of the hair. Geez, there's a lot of action outside with the postman. I don't know, there's a pizza delivery, I think. Not for us anyway, we've got millionaire shortbread to be eating. No. And actually there's mushroom risotto in the fridge. Okay, do you like mushrooms, Callum? Okay. No one likes mushrooms in my house either, so I'm eating the whole risotto myself. Okay. Almost there now. What was I going to do? Yeah, so now I don't want the hair to, like, you know, people talk about hair looking like a helmet and things, and I think it's about the kind of transition between hair and skin, and sometimes for there to be a clear channel of a shadow that runs from the hair to the skin, and other times for there to be more of a difference between the colour and consistency, the texture, rather than just a very definite line between the hair and the skin. That for me has often helped to set the skin apart from the hair. I can always adjust it again later, but I remember I wanted to go back into the eyes because I want to make this eye on this side read as being a bit lighter and having more to it, because that one has got more detail now. I want to increase the level of detail in this one. And so I'm using the damp brush again, the 1/4 inch craft brush. The reason I like these brushes is because they've got a springy kind of springy bristles that mean that I can easily agitate the paint and lift it off in a carving out kind of a way. Okay, I'm going to just make the pupil a little less, a little shorter. And I'm going to leave that alone now for a little while and just see what's happening around it. Alizarin crimson, this is 2 minutes. Alizarin crimson might work. Right there, a little bit. And in the inner corner of the eye there. Some there, across here. I spoke last week, didn't I, about the last time, about differentiating parts of the eye by using colour as well as tone. But colour is a nice way to identify parts from each other. It keeps it kind of interesting for you as well. Just using some cadmium red here in order to get the shape of the lips extending out. Just disturbing the edge a little so that it undulates around. Okay, I think there might be a stage 3 to this as well, Callum, is that okay? I feel like in stage 3 I would do something loose here to create a bit of connection between the hair and the head and the body, and I might also fine tune parts of the skin again, because like watercolour dries a shade lighter, and sometimes it reads as being a little disappointing, the surface. After it's dried, you kind of want to go back and re-establish the darks and lights again. Now those fiddly small moves, better with one big one. And I like the colour of that, and even though it's not really warm here, I think it would help for there to be some warmth there, just as a way of kind of connecting with the mouth. And in the last 40 seconds, I'm going to go back into the ear and bring some warmth to the light bits. It's not yet really dry enough, so I think this might be also, stage 3 might also contain a bit more ear tutorial. Yeah. I mean, it's okay, it's getting there. To differentiate the ear a bit from what's underneath it, I'm going to lift off this a little bit more, because that edge of that shadow was calling attention more than the edge of the ear was, and I want the ear to be the thing that we see clearly there. That's the thing about all these dancing moves on the skin. You kind of need to establish clearly the points. Then, when there's lots of pattern on the skin, it's important to establish clearly the significant parts, like the eyebrows, the eyelash line, the nostril, the upper lip, the lower lip, shadow beneath the lower lip. You know, things like that need to be established clearly, so that from a distance I see those. And then I can afford to have this kind of woven texture for the skin in between them. Calum, you can rest now, for God's sake. I'll just keep painting if you keep sitting. So I would suggest that you don't do that. But I'll come across here and say goodbye to everybody. Here we are. Yeah, if you go that way, yeah. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. I'm having a look at it now. My goodness, you look a bit strange there. I think, not you, but the painting. I think maybe it needs to be like that. Anyway, so I'm going to do another final. There we are. Yeah, it's okay. The nose is a little bit Rudolphy, isn't it? But I'll do one more stage. So stage 3 would be next. Yeah, it's okay. So thanks very much, Callum. You get a bit distracted, you know, when you can see yourself and you can see the picture on the screen. It's a bit distracting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm just talking to you, Callum, and looking at the painting for myself. But actually, if you're watching, thanks very much for watching, and give it a go. Watercolour, like these big brushes are great. You can get the set of 3 from Rosemary & Co. It's the Aine Divine set, and they're really good. I love them because they hold a lot of water, and you can just experiment with them. But then when you come to paint like this, they allow you to kind of carve out shapes of the features and things, and follow along if you fancy it. Follow along as I'm painting and get someone to sit for you. So we'll have the third one maybe in a few days' time when you've recovered, Callum. All right, thanks very much for watching, and have a look at the links below if you want to know more about me and workshops and different things. Okay, all the best.